I think if either of us is to talk about this properly, it is you, because our whole initial look into boosting, that video series we did and everything, that really was from your side of things. So, Matt, boosting, the discussion is back. The problem is not solved, as it turns out.
Who'd have thought? Who would possibly have thought that the boosting communities who are making tons of money would have went away when Blizzard said, please go away. We will ban you if you don't do this very specific workaround. They all just kind of did the workaround. So I believe this was Pencake from earlier. I'll fire it up here. Pencake earlier is like, yeah, boosting communities, why were they not banned? It's like apparently Method were completely in there as well. I need to actually look at that document, but I mean, this is the same case. If you've been in any of the Discords, they've definitely all like got around, right? They've all went, okay, well, we'll take a break to figure out how we get around this. And then they show up again going, yeah, we're just going to skirt around the letter of the law because Blizzard don't have the capacity to actually enforce the spirit of the law, which is don't be boosting, basically speaking, unless you're a guild. So, I mean, I've even had a load of pings on Discord recently from announcements from these servers because I was like on them to investigate and stuff. And actually, here's the Google document. I can't open it for you now, but yeah, no action was taken against anyone in Europe as far as we're aware. This has made some of them so confident they're even actively trying to expand. For many guilds that are not breaking the rules by still partnering up with communities, this creates an impossible situation because a majority of buyers still go through communities. And Method taking the chance to go with the community gives them a massive advantage because of the amount of gold they can earn in a short time with almost no work from their side besides boosting. So that's the fun thing. Yeah, there's 5 active communities who never stopped. Dawn, Oblivion, Nova, Sylvanas, and Twilight, with Method working with Dawn. So that's a case where, like, I don't really know what you do against boosting without just saying, go fuck off, all of you. We've covered in depth, like, how that's kind of not really going to be a problem. So, they need to recruit players to enforce rules like in a bad MMO anime. Almost certainly. That wouldn't make any sense, but almost certainly. They need like GMs walking around, standing, just being imposing presences. That would maybe sort it out. But yeah, exactly, Stephen. They called Blizzard's bluff. Or bluff, brother. Like, yeah. You're not going to do anything about it because this is such a portion of gameplay, such a portion of experience. All the positives there are just absolutely, they're solid positives. And Blizzard didn't want to get rid of them because so many players were profiting, so many players were, playing because of it, so much of the WoW token cycling was going around. It's completely brutal. This is the end game of WoW becoming the gold selling websites themselves. Changed my mind. Caligula, that's kind of the problem where you have to really, that's like, they'll never go to that length because they still want to have World of Warcraft have some respect. But it certainly feels like the direction they're going. But let me see. There was a tweet from Scripe I remember I thought was fairly interesting about this. Yeah, so the whole thing about the actual communities being, existing, what they're there for. One of the reasons they continue for a lot of Mythic players is that Mythic players need gold to play the game. The Mythic guilds need tons of gold to play the game. There's no real way around it with the current system, just because pulls require so much. We did a video, I can't remember how long ago it was now, but we did some calculating of, I think Dakor grabbed all of the average prices of items across a bunch of servers, and we figured out how much it costs a Mythic Raider in terms of gold, but also real world money. And I can't remember it specifically, but it was something to the effect of, what was it? Maybe it doubled the price of your sub sometimes if you were to go purely through WoW token. And that's the case of you just need so much. And that's just your all of your consumables. But as Scribe says, Method and other guilds are cornered into doing this kind of stuff when you ban the boosting communities, but you keep the insane requirements for gold and money to compete. He said he doesn't blame Method here, but Blizzard need either loosen the rules up or stop people from breaking them. And he says that Blizzard were absolutely informed about it in private. They know this is going on, but they didn't act quick enough, which then means this information is all public. And that's just, it's brutal. I mean, Nagura responded saying, how do you stop the insane gold requirements to compete? because the costs are mostly to do with basically buying off players to trade in loot. And that's the thing where the gold requirements are just so completely insane that boosting communities they're not going to go anywhere while the demand for boosting is there. Sorry, the demand or the supply, either one. The supply, I guess, because it's the mythic raiders doing the boosts. They're the ones who need the money. And that's kind of the problem where it's like, none of this stuff went away. None of this stuff went away, and it's not going to go away until Blizzard take a hardline stance or fix the underlying problem. That kind of pansy ass, don't be at this. We all celebrated it fairly enough, but just don't be boosting. We don't like that. We have slightly changed the wording of our rules. Please no boost. So that's the awkward thing.
Guilds angry at each other.
Mostly just Scribe saying he doesn't blame Method, but like it's obvious they're cornered into doing that stuff. They're cornered into doing that stuff. Blizzard were told about this in private. They haven't responded, so all the information.
So right, Method are
working with Dawn to just boost. Just continue boosting.
So no RMT or anything, but it's basically
not that we know of. Just right. Full on boosting, but they're not boosting as Method. They're boosting with Dawn. So they're kind of firing a bunch of people in to do. If you scroll down a little bit, it should be there somewhere. But it's actually a little bit above that. Just the amount of runs that happen. There's a full clear runs, personal loot, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 17. So that is 11 runs a day on Horde side. And then 4 additional runs later on Alliance.
Fun.
And that's so many people not playing the game. They are playing the game, but they're paying to play the game. They're paying to skip all this stuff. And it's so... I think everyone knows my thoughts, and it's not the way the game should be played, realistically, because you're just being boosted. You're getting a free kill, free gear. It's a perversion of what the game's about,
Here's the thing,
fundamentally.
Though. Right, I don't mean...
Yeah.
EPGP existed a long time ago.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen to be dominant. You then look at gold runs in Classic.
Yeah.
And the amount of people saying that they're ruining it. Stuff like that. It's like, interesting. So they sort of existed but didn't ruin it in the past. Now in the future it does. And I don't want to go all, you think you do it, but you don't.
Yeah.
But a degree of this is like, motherfuckers boost.
Yeah.
If people want boosts and there is a way to sell boosts, it's going to fucking happen. And ultimately, I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah, well,
I don't want to pull a J. Allen Brack and everyone.
Oh, just free market principles, like absolutely.
I mean, that's it. But like, it's quite interesting because all that shit was possible in the past. Yeah. It's only really happening now because it's so lubricated by technology,
and it's also more pervasive, which makes it more culturally acceptable.
Yeah, and the whole loot culture of the game has like changed and evolved as well.
Yeah, people play for loot, not to play.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, you know what? Our motherfuckers' brains just broken. Nobody knows how to play a game for fucking intrinsic enjoyment anymore. Yeah. The entire industry is basically fucked, and the RPGification of every single thing into every single fucking game, combined with, I don't know, the fucking TikToks and the Twitters and the news and everything eroding people's fucking brain. And it just turns out it's all fucked because people are the common denominator, and the way that we just approach shit and deal with it is different. It's changing. I think probably getting worse. Maybe I'm just a big doomer about it all.
It's very difficult.
You know what I'm getting at, though.
It's very difficult to keep any sense of hope or what's the term for an anti-doomer? A bloomer.
A bloomer.
Yeah. Oh. It's obviously flowers bloom and stuff. It's hard to not be a doomer when you think about it in those like objective terms of things are getting worse. Obviously, look, well, is there a turning point where things could get better? That's where maybe a bloomer might come from. For me, it's that kind of thing of like, I feel like this is probably reversible. I feel like, I don't know if people paying for boosts are happy about it. I think they're doing it because there's some like, I'm trying to think of a different way to put this, like a real world allegory, but it's the idea of just, I don't think people are happy to pay for boosts. I think people would be happier if they played the game.
Yeah.
But all of the games design and I guess cultural design, social design, and loot design is kind of pushing them into it. Where it's like, well, would you rather have, the gear is more valuable than playing the game? So I think like, fundamentally, from the experience of this game, it is Blizzard's problem to solve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this like the video game equivalent of, I don't know, like parts of things in Japan going loopy so people just fucking live in a manga cafe now?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
fallen through the cracks.
Yeah, exactly. So like I think this is fundamentally Blizzard's problem to solve for how they want to play or how they want people to play their game. And I feel like everyone buying a boost is Blizzard's problem to solve.
Totally.
Everyone selling a boost is also Blizzard's problem to solve, because it's like you've got supply and demand, right? What they've done by trying to tell these boosting communities to, please go away, but we won't punish you in any way. Just please slightly go away because we don't have anyone to ban you because we fired all our customer support. Whoops. That's like an attack on the supply side of boosting. And they could attack that by going, okay, so all of this like heavy loot requirement, heavy gold requirement for like world first guilds and a lot of mythic guilds. We'll remove that. We'll cut that down. Which fundamentally means personal loot and the trading stuff needs to kind of go or be worked around in a way, or no longer needs to be required, because that's where most of their gold is going to. At the minute, it's like, not all of it, but most of it is. BOEs and stuff and crafted items are still going to be expensive. So it's like they need to sort that out in a little bit of a while. Didn't the VP of Blizzard promote boosting too? The president of Blizzard, Mikey Barr, does boosts, yeah.
Yeah, that's just because he's a World of Warcraft player and top-end guilds like him do boosts. It's how they fund a whole bunch of their, their cost of playing the game and earn gold for their players.
Yeah, so that's the thing. We're like...
He's doing that as a player.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of that thing where it is, I guess soft confirmed as a thing that's perfectly okay to do because he does it. That's kind of the way it's going to be looked at. But the supply thing needs to be addressed. Obviously, that's one way of solving the problem. The other is the demand side of things, which is, well, why are people buying boosts? Do they have excess gold? With how some people are RMTing for gold and using Mo token and stuff, maybe some have a load of excess gold because they're like in control of the market. So they have like, gold cap on a load of characters that have nothing to do with it. So they buy boosts instead of the going through the black market auction house, which in itself is an attack on the demand of boosting in that way. But the other thing is make progression more fun.
Yeah, totally.
It's like this is a thing where imagine, well, it wouldn't have been a massive, actually no, it would, because mythic boosts are pretty expensive and popular towards the end of a tier for cutting edge and stuff. So you would maybe, because I know, I'm thinking about it because Nagura had a tweet here, and Nagura was talking about a potential problem to like the whole mythic top percentage, et cetera, being remove mythic gear as like a physical item stuff, make it only cosmetic. That would be like one solution.
It's like with ultimates?
Yeah. Basically that. And that would be like one solution in a way where you wouldn't, people would still want a mythic go for that, but it would cut out all of the like amount of supply necessary there for boosters needing to go and get all that stuff. But the other thing is like just cutting out that demand by fixing gearing and fixing looting and making the game more fun, more enjoyable to play. There is obviously points where you're like, it doesn't matter how fun it is, people will want the social aspect of, I want the title. I want cutting edge, and I'm not going to, I'm going to buy that. But I think fundamentally I think people would rather play the game and have the fun experience. But whatever's stopping them from doing that.
Would they?
I'm assuming that, because I'm assuming people want to play the game. But
this is right.
Well, also, okay, I'm not just assuming that. I'm assuming that's what Blizzard want of them as well.
True, but now we're going to get into the fucking dark side of video games.
Yeah.
Right. So take Archero. Yeah. Archero would not be a successful game if people played it for its intrinsic gameplay.
For sure,
yeah. It's only successful because it provides that virtual work and it locks people into a Skinner box.
Yeah.
So I think what has sort of happened is the more that we focus on loot and all of that stuff, that's the goal. The content's just a way to get there.
Yeah.
And we have Archer is basically almost any of those mobile games where you can see the core of the toy in the game and how it could be fun, and then you just see it get completely perverted just to rinse people full of money and buy gems and shit. Like so many of those mobile games, they do well because they have one game mode that is like decently fun, but then they just make the humongous fucking treadmill, and that's how it's monetized. People basically pay for a boost. And the exact same reason why somebody will buy a chest of loot in Archero or a whole bunch of, I don't know, loot boxes full of gear and Raid Shadow Legends or something. It's some very similar psychology to why people will want to buy Boost in World of Warcraft. There's slight differences. Maybe they feel like they need that gear for a social requirement. But that's really hard because the way that we play games is different. In 2004, we played games for their intrinsic fun. At the height of World of Warcraft in 2008, we played games for intrinsic fun. Still. Like, there was some of that loot stuff and, Marquee Dragon and all of those, the RMT stuff. Like, yeah, sure, that was all happening in MMOs. But is it any surprise that the RMT shit that appeared in early MMOs, the whole MMOs, the genre that's all about virtual work, I mean, does that not completely predict so much of mobile game monetization?
For sure,
some of the psychological hooks. Yeah. So it's like, track that forward, that's where we are now. How do you rewire people's brains to play things for the intrinsic reasons? Right? Because ultimately it's like, yeah, you could play the Pale. You could play some game that exists. I mean, our game is like that on purpose. It's only a thing you could ever play for intrinsic, reasons. And it's like that for so many, other games that exist. But we kind of get sucked in to a lot of these live service games that are all just about providing extrinsic reasons to play the game. And that's what hooks us to those games and keeps us to those games. I think that's why it's so hard for like new games to penetrate the shooter market and so much of that, because we're no longer gamers playing games. We're people who have fallen in to the fucking virtual work camp of a live service where we can, I don't know, like pay someone to get some loot smuggled in so we can get ahead in the rat race. I'm not saying this is like a big thing that the game devs are trying to do. I mean, okay, on mobile, because, many
100% are.
Mobile game devs are evil as fuck and are, they're not evil people, but the output of their professional careers, unfortunately, is bad for humanity. And I think it's okay to let them know that.
Yeah.
So I find it ethically questionable to...
Of course.
Yeah, in the same way, it's like I find it ethically questionable to work at Facebook. It's fucking ethically questionable to be working in mobile games monetized in that manner. But all of these things, I think, are kind of working in similar human psychology that then applies in an MMO. Yeah. And I just think about, like... I mean, I'd never get a boost because...
What's the point?
For me, what's the point?
Yeah.
Evidently, there are loads of people who want a boost because, they feel... Maybe they get the same psychological resistance of being in a free-to-play mobile game where you reach that point in the grindiness curve after they've given you all your freebies, where at this point it's like, okay, you could grind this game for 5 hours, of course, which you have to do over a week, because of fucking energy bars and shit, or you could just buy this special epic reward chest, 40% off, buy now. And they're like, oh, I'm going to buy that so that I can get ahead in the thing. It's like it's the same psychology as goes on in boosting.
Yeah.
And... I don't think Blizzard intend for this to happen, but it's what's happening to the psychology of gamers, because every game is a progression now.
Yeah, so obviously there's a whole bunch of different ways you could approach this. You could approach this from the ethical standpoint of, well, Blizzard is ignoring the fact that they're Activision Blizzard King, a company that's ultimately beholden to their shareholders. If you think about Blizzard, the game development company, and all of the creative staff involved, is like, do you back creative or money? For the creative side, you would hope that they're like, okay, well, we want to make a game that people want to play. We want people to engage with the gearing loop for the fun reason. And this in the way that, there's no part of, I guess, Destiny 2, for example. I'm sure there's definitely boost going on there as well. But I'm sure there's no point of that. The devs think, okay, how can we earn more money out of this extrinsic reward loop? For I guess they'll be looking for engagement, which they assume is fun, as opposed to monetization. Obviously, you could argue they're close enough, and that's kind of like, okay, well, I mean, you'd expect Blizzard would want people to play the game more naturally, because that aligns with what game devs want people to do. I'm sure if you ask them, would you rather have people boost, or would you rather have people play the game? The answer would probably be do whatever they want, but if pushed, they'd probably say play the game naturally. So it's like you want to design a better loop for people to do that in, so they're less reliant on going the outside way, the outside route. You want to make it more fun. You want to make it more deterministic. You want to make it less frustrating when you don't get gear. I think that's one of the ways they could actually solve the problem, but that would be like kind of taking a full examination of the current existing system, and that kind of falls apart when you have difficulty looped into it, because people are just fundamentally going to be like, well, I'm literally not a good enough player for heroic. And there is, in a world where there is, all the systems in the game to say, hey, here's how to improve. Here's how to get better. Here's ways to find guilds and find groups and find pugs that are going to help you through this and help you like improve. The boosting option will always be the shortcut. So there's nothing they can really do around that, because people want loot in their game. But they could clean up the system and they could make the treadmill, they could take the big shiny boost now, this will be easier route from their treadmill, and kind of make it a bit smaller and kind of make the treadmill more fun to be on. Which is kind of the fundamental problem of that's a hard thing to do. But it's like that. Those are the two sides of boosting: supply and demand. Supply is a pretty easy enough solve outside of the the loot kind of problem that they're trying to solve by making personal loot more clear. And then the demand side, which is people are just going to want to boost. It's how do you make a game that's so fun people would rather play it than boost?
But then there is the problem that fun doesn't win in the industry now.
Yeah.
Creating the best Skinner box, the best progression loop to get people tackled in, that tends to be what wins. So I think there's everything you're saying. I think in addition to that, there's also the broader societal thing, how gaming has changed, how gamers have changed, and that thing of you could do EPGP runs in actual WoW Classic. Probably when... literally buying gold was like a massive thing. It was probably harder for Blizzard to police at the time because they didn't have as good tools.
Well, it's apparently a lot harder now because they just don't have anyone who does it for them. But yeah.
Yeah. So all that was possible in 2004.
Yeah.
It was so much worse when Classic came out. Now, a bit of the game has changed. A large part is society has changed. Gamers have changed. I feel like we're in a weird situation where, you see a mount or a title that's at the end of Sylvanas or at the end of some boss fight, right? And in my head, it's like, oh, well, if I got that, that would be awesome. That would be like a real testament to the cool thing that I did. But now I think we have this attitude of that's content in the game. I want that. I want that reward. But it's like, it's a reward for doing something. And in my head, I don't want that reward if I haven't earned it.
Yeah.
But evidently, it's not like that for a bunch of people. And that's one thing that drives boosting, is wanting to get the title, the mount, the achievement.
Yeah.
And I guess the other side of it is just the gearing thing. And I have a feeling the next expansion could do some good things on that, purely because it seems like gearing is going to be something that you, the player, have a good bit more control over. And perhaps if people feel like they have that control, then they don't feel like they need to get an entire, fucking raid worth of loot funneled into them just to be ready to go. But perhaps a world where we were all playing more alts, but gearing was also a bit faster, a bit more liberal in a way. Maybe people would feel the need to boost less.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying.
So
it's like
right, yeah.
It's
like everything's changed.
Yeah, everything's changed, but I don't like super engaging with that like doomer gaming has changed mindset, even though it's real. I'll obviously engage with it for like analytics or engaging in terms of the thing. But when it comes to personally or like talking about what Blizzard should kind of do, I think that's kind of that's the lie down and die and just let the industry become that way. Whereas I think there are ways they can actually just de-incentivize boosting by making the demand for boosting lesser, by making it, like we're talking about, more deterministic, make it a little bit more fun. Fun doesn't win, but you don't want to win 100%. You want to tilt the balance.
Yeah.
It's almost like you were saying earlier about when we're talking about loot, they like 80% good, 20% bad. It's like, if it just so happens that what your changes will do will, make people less likely to boost because they're going to, get the gear better, get the gear quicker, get the gear easier, or, there's more systems in place for them to, not literally design systems, but more like social factors in place for them to get you know, oh, hey, I can join a group, and then they'll go and do heroic. It's kind of the case where I'm trying to I'll go into a little bit, but like even the different for ultimates because they're really hard in FF, and you know you have to fully clear Savage and then go to them. But for Savage difficulty, like because that game's so different in terms of how much gear you need and that like gearing loop not being as big a part of the game, you can just join Savage groups in Party Finder, and because of how Party Finder there is operated, and how Party Finder strats are engaged and how bosses are designed, everything's a lot smoother there.
Yeah.
Where you just join a group. Everyone has their own part to play. Everyone plays their own part. Everyone, you know, how we handshake at the end, like, yep, we all did great there. We got our boss down. It was fun. It was exciting. Completely different like game, completely different structure. But that's like the thing of that is designed to be really easy to get into, really easy to play. And they still have boosting there 100%.
Yeah.
But it's not as pervasive as World of Warcraft. And also some of that is because they have CMs who just destroy people who are spamming for boosts. So it's like all of these different things Blizzard could do to nip this problem in the bud. There's no harm in them doing it. I think, ultimately, if they all make it positive as opposed to highly punitive. I would never say everyone who's bought a boost, ban them. I wouldn't say everyone who's boosted, ban them. I would say get people who spam, get rid of them. If you don't like boosting communities, hence the original post, then go harder on them and actually get rid of them, because that's clearly what they kind of wanted to do, but they didn't want to do it too hard. So maybe they need another stab at that. But it is a thing. It's like
Dark Souls saying Savage mounts are also 100% drop even after the tier.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all those things that just make the game a little bit nicer to play. I mean, yeah, gear is like obviously there's no wasted gear in Savage because everything drops a coffer, which turns into whatever your job whenever you use it. Stuff like that. It just kind of makes it a lot smoother, and that's not like saying that's better, but it's just a case of casual players don't have the time, but they have the money. That's why boosters are popular.
Yeah,
that's a problem for Blizzard to solve. Are too many people buying their way through this game instead of playing it? Is that because it takes too long? Okay, we have to make it take less time. Then more of our audience will engage in our game the way we intend and design. This is making a lot of assumptions in their intention, of course. They could be completely happy with this because more people enjoy the long raids than the problem they have with boosters. So that could be like a thing of they would need to weigh that internally to figure out that change. But that's the stuff of like that's kind of the kind of all I've fucking talked about every single part of this basically. It's just there's so much to it, and it's so much what it boils down to. People need to enjoy playing the game more, and also get rid of RMT and WoW token. You'd also solve the problem too.
That would help with a lot.
Yep.
I think it's worth acknowledging that a lot of things have changed.
Yeah.
As World of Warcraft has aged in terms of how we view games, how games are played, how people are taught to play games. And I feel like that also is playing a really large role. Not to kind of give Blizzard loads of excuses. I feel like they ended up sleepwalking into a situation because things, attitudes, etc., even outside of their game kind of changed.
Yeah.
But undoubtedly, a lot of their own design decisions and additions of friction in their own game totally led to a greater demand. Yeah. And a greater demand for this, and also supply was enabled.
Yep.
And it's like, how could they contend with how incredibly... I mean, just the customer service angle of it. Mm-hmm. When it almost gets to be, I want an Uber driver to take me through this raid. The Discord bots and all of that stuff. And you think about Blizzard and, multi-billion-dollar company. Well, ultimately this will fall to a team of a few people. Mm-hmm. And in a way, it's like, what are they combating? Oh, the distributed organizational and technological output of a whole fucking community of tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah. I mean, it's exactly...
Hard fight to win.
It's exactly the same as the add-on side of things.
Yeah.
Where they're like, man, we can't beat you. You're too good. We literally can't beat you. Even the same with Mythic raid design. Whereas like, players are getting better. We need to make stuff harder. God, this is difficult. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. But just because before I forget, KW talked about earlier in chat about Elden Ring. And I think that's interesting as not like as a counterpoint, but as like a additional thing to say about, you're talking about, things have very much changed in gaming, and a lot more people are like hooked on the extrinsic side of things and the mobile style of gaming of, here's the extrinsic thing, get it at any cost, even if that's financial. There is a counterpart where Elden Ring shows that there is a substantial amount of the gaming populace. Obviously, it's like far away from the World of Warcraft side of things. It's it's the console gamers, PC gamers, those kind of people, as opposed to the MMO audience. But there is a healthy desire for that kind of no frills, fun video game exploration, adventure, all that stuff is still there. So it's not like that's all going by the wayside. It's just that the one that makes the more money and is the easier to make is the one that's naturally becoming the bigger portion of the industry, the bigger slice of the pie.
Yeah.
And that's a thing where there's definitely room. Blizzard should maybe try a little bit. I would like to see that, but also they also have to make the game good at the same time. So I think they might just be a little bit overwhelmed, to be honest.
Yeah, it's hard to make games, especially big ones.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's such a fascinating topic. I think ultimately Blizzard needs to work out how they can enforce the spirit of their rule.
Exactly, yeah.
And it's kind of weird because it definitely is different rules for the top guilds.
For sure.
Because there's people in the top guilds who've literally admitted that... Was it Scribe?
Yeah, Scribe's like, yeah, we bought a load of RMT gold. Like, yep, sure.
Yeah.
No problem.
And that's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally just his nuts are too big for Blizzard to ban him because they banned Scribe. Was it Echo at that point, or was he still Method? I think he might still Method at the time. But anyway, he banned Scribe now. Echo goes away. That's they don't want that to happen because it's part of their big Halo product that are raised to world first, and like that's just something they have to contend with, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of wild.